I got you.
All right, Canaanites, welcome to a very special edition of Talking Taker as we dig up the career of the brother of the greatest professional wrestling character of all time, The Undertaker. Yes, folks, you heard me right. Tonight is not yet another round of Dead Man Talking, but a special bonus one-time only edition of Raising Kane. My name is Alex Doriot, and I want to thank you for joining us. But I cannot do this on my own, so I am joined, as always, by my wrestling buddy, my tag team partner, my best friend, my podcasting brother of destruction. That's gotta be Mr. Travis White. And Travis, as the two foremost experts on the career of The Undertaker, you and I decided that we needed to reconvene tonight for this special occasion to celebrate the career of the latest member of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2021, the Devil's favorite demon, the Big Red Machine, Paul Bear's baby boy, Kane.
The headliner. Oh, the mayor of Knox County. He's a mayor an hour and a half from where I live, man. It's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. Isn't he a 24/7 champion? Didn't he pin Truth?
Former 24/7 champion.
Yeah, former 24/7 champion. Yeah, so he's even winning titles, recently. So
yeah, he's in the Royal Rumble this year.
He was. That's insane. Forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, we decided to dust off the old podcast microphone, dust off the cameras, and just come at you guys with a surprise episode here. Raising Kane, talking about Taker's brother, as he is a Hall of Fame, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Taker will go in next year since it's in Dallas, and we'll have to dust it off again for that, for sure.
Well, look, it's been about a month or so since we retired the podcast Talking Taker, but just like in pro wrestling itself, there's no such thing as retirement in the world of podcasting. We thought we were done, but we're getting dragged down into hell of podcasting, like Kane used to drag people underneath the ring. He's just dragging us back in. You folks are loyal creatures of the night on Twitter. You were saying we needed to do something special to celebrate it. You and I, Travis, we kind of texted back and forth, and we decided, we got to do it. We got to talk about it. It's only fitting. This guy, no one was more intertwined with The Undertaker throughout his career than his storyline brother, Kane. So there's so much to talk about here. Want to clarify, this is not the beginning of a new podcasting project. If it blows up, you never say never. Maybe we commit another 3 years of our life to Kane. Not likely, though. What we're going to try to do here tonight is we're just going to go off the cuff. You and I, Travis, we're going to kind of riff about our favorite Kane memories. We'll kind of do a loose outline of his career, talk about some of his biggest moments and matches and incidents, crimes he committed, things like that. We'll talk about some of his historic facts and figures, share some of our all-time favorite Kane matches, and just talk about whatever memories that spark up here. So I've got my Kane shirt custom from Lapel that I ordered. I love this thing. I got some red wine for the Big Red Machine. 19 crimes, because I think that's at least as many as he committed in the company. So
on
man,
television,
on television, we don't even know about his past.
Yeah. Well, we know one thing about his past.
We know a few things. Yeah,
we know one murder he committed.
Travis, as we kick things off here, man, just when you think of Kane, 2021 Hall of Famer, when you think of Kane, what comes to mind?
I mean, well, if asked me before we spent 3.5 years of our life digging into Undertaker's life and how it was intertwined, and I would have just said, entertaining, great big man, scary for his time, and one of the better big men. But also, I'll be completely honest, not one, like, I don't have a lot of matches that stand out like, oh, that was a 5-star classic with Kane. A lot of his stuff, like you said, there are incidents there are things. There's the sports entertainment part. There's the backstage vignettes, the crazy stuff he does in the ring. A lot of that's more what I think about with Kane. It's more of a character-driven, wrestler character. A lot of character stuff. So yeah, not giving me the 5-star classics or whatever, but 5-star classic incidents for sure. I mean, one of the top entertaining guys on WWE television when we're going to break down some of his stuff here. So what about you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. To me, though, I kind of think he is almost underrated as an in-ring worker. He kind of has overperformed in that big man role, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here tonight. Is he's such a good utility player.
Yes.
In the company, like he way more so than Undertaker. He's had a very, he's always gets looped in with Undertaker naturally, but he's had a very different career path, and
Sure.
He has had times when he's been the main event, where he's been the world champion, where he's been the focus of the company. Definitely not as much as Undertaker, but he's also had so many tag team partners and different tag team title reigns. He's a guy who's had. I'm going to spoil one of the stats that we're going to talk about later. He's had the most Money in the Bank match appearances, tied with Kofi Kingston in company history. Not Rey Mysterio, not your Dolph Ziggler or The Miz or your typical Money in the Bank guys. Kane. Yeah. Kane is a Money in the Bank guy. And he's been in other ladder matches and TLC matches and things like that. But he can fill that role. You can put him anywhere. You can give him comedy, and he crushes it. You can give him horror and, the most absurd stuff. Does it always, 100% of the time, click and work? No, but you better believe he's going to sell it.
No. Yeah. But yeah.
And he will do everything in his power to make it work.
Yep. And you know what? I think that not kayfabe like he learned it from his brother, but I think he learned a lot of that just selling whatever you're given from Taker, man. I mean, Taker took him under his wing, as his kayfabe brother, and I think that, like you said, he's always whatever you give him, he'll turn it into the biggest piece of chicken crap into the biggest, most tasty chicken salad he can possibly do.
Absolutely.
But he makes it all worthwhile. It's definitely entertaining, even if it's a train wreck. It's entertaining because Kane's doing it. And he can just flip on a dime and go from one segment and be making you in stitches and laughing so hard, and then just walk right back into that Michael Myers character, and it works. Not a lot of guys can do that.
We talked a little bit about this with Big Show when we went through the endless marathon of Big Show matches. That love Big Show. He'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. Absolutely deserved. Absolutely, but he's kind of a guy who could not always get over some of the crap that the Office gave him, and Big Show seemed like a guy who would never argue. Like, the Office gave him something, and he's just like, all right, I'm gonna go do it, but he couldn't always pull it off. And Kane, I feel like, is the same way. I don't feel like Kane ever argued, because I probably would have argued if someone gave me the Katie Vick storyline and probably would have said, that doesn't work for me, brother. But Kane didn't argue that, and somehow Kane was able to make way more stuff work than a guy like Big Show was able to make work. And that's why we're talking about him after 25 years of this Kane character. 24, coming up on 25.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'll say this too, man. Like, I remember, so a buddy of mine I went to church with back when I was first getting into wrestling again. He had which game came first on PlayStation? Raw is War, the Warzone game, or Attitude?
Warzone, yeah.
Warzone. You could pause it and see the move list or whatever.
You had to, because it was 10 button combos.
He would always choose Kane, and I just remember Kane on that game was like really. It was a really good player to pick on that game, man, because he just had dominating moves, and it was just always try to bring it back to video games and fun like that. But yeah, I didn't use him a lot on No Mercy. I had other talented roster to pick from, but I remember on that game, my buddy from church picking him a lot and just constantly dominating everybody. So, because his moveset is great,
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're looking at the Attitude Era of WWE, the biggest, hottest time in the company's history, You're talking about your top 5 guys. Of course, you're putting Austin. Of course, you're putting Rock. Of course, you're putting the Dead Man. You got to put the Dead Man in there. You're probably putting Mick Foley in there. I think you got to put him. I think you got to put Kane. Like
Triple H, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's an argument there. Like, he's certainly in that role, and like he, I don't think he gets the love for that that he should.
Yep, I agree. He does not get the love and respect. Like I said, underrated is a perfect term for Kane, which he's a Hall of Famer for a headliner. How can he be underrated? Well, just when you look at his whole entire career, he really is, man. And we'll get into some more stuff here, but yeah. We can talk all night about him.
Well, we're going to try. Let's kind of talk about the early days of Kane for a minute and sort of that evolution of Glenn Jacobs into Kane. I mean, here's a guy who, as Bruiser Mastino in WCW, he accomplished something that The Undertaker didn't, in that he had a match with Sting in WCW as a job guy that is on the it was on the WWE Network. I don't know if it's made the migration over to Peacock yet, but also, can we just talk about the timing of us completing our podcast a week before they move, the WWE Network dies and moves over to Peacock? Unbelievable, man. Yeah. That's a God thing right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. The Lord had his hand on us. He's like, you're going to finish this before the Peacock ruins half the stuff you can't watch anymore. So, yeah, good on us.
So another hidden gem he's in on the network before he's in the WWE. He wrestles as Unabomb against The Undertaker in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So that's sort of the first meeting of these two men, of Glenn Jacobs and Mark Calloway. They get to know each other and begin to develop this relationship, begin to develop this trust for each other. I think Undertaker has talked about seeing something in him at that young age, seeing, okay, there could be money here. There could be something, obviously not knowing what it would turn into. But, here's a guy who then goes on to become, talk about chicken salad here, Isaac Yankem, DDS, the wrestling dentist. And then that fizzles out and then turns into Fake Diesel, just two of the biggest wrestle crap gimmicks of all time right there. It's incredible that he ever recovered from those two things.
Oh, without question. We were joking before we started recording about that Babatunde Dabba-Kato guy re-debuted at WrestleMania this year and was a third gimmick in like 3 years. And I don't, no offense to him, I don't think his third career in 3 years is going to go as far as Kane's did, because Yankem was 95, Fake Diesel's 96, Kane's 97.
Wow.
3 years, 3 different gimmicks. Kane's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Sorry, Dabba-Kato, you're not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer unless you'll surprise me. But I'm just saying,
you never know.
3 years, 3 different gimmicks, but the one that meant something stuck, because again, he debuted where our number one Taker match, the Hell in a Cell, with Shawn and Taker. So
well, there you go. Kane as Yankem and as Diesel, he also had matches with Undertaker on Raw during that time, which are kind of fun things to go back and look at. But the Kane character, of course, comes next. This transformation, 2 horribly failed gimmicks, but the company still sees something in this guy, still sees some potential in him. We tried dyeing his hair and giving him this Diesel look. That's not going to work. What can we do? Let's put him under a hood. Let's put him under a mask. And let's slot him into this role for The Undertaker's brother, this new storyline that kind of takes over the entire summer and fall of 1997 between Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. Probably, if not my favorite, got to be in my 2 or 3 favorite things that we covered in the history of our podcast. The promos between Paul Bearer and The Undertaker, just unraveling this soap opera storyline and this history of their family. You read the comic book and gave us even more backstory on it.
Yeah, no, it was such a joy to revisit that, because again, I kind of came back into wrestling on the tail end of that as he's about to debut, and Hell in a Cell is kind of right when I was getting back into it. So it took me back to those times and just getting to see him for the first time. And just the way that was 97, and here we are 24 years later, still talking about him again. We know he's not his real brother, but storyline wise in WWE continuity, he still is, and their lives were forever intertwined, because of that. And he would not, if he'd have come back as Kane, some just big guy that wasn't connected to Taker, I'd say he'd had 3 failed gimmicks in three years. It's because
was
connected with that story with Taker that made it what it was. He did too, but he wouldn't have the opportunity to have taken it to that level, a 24-year run, if it hadn't have been for the fact that he was glued to Taker's hip with that. So.
And it's another one of those things where it's fate. Like, you had the perfect guy to fill the role of the Undertaker character with Mark Calloway. You could put a lot of people in that gimmick, and it would be really good or great even, but it would not become what it is without Mark Calloway. And it's the same deal with Kane. There's probably a lot of big men that you could have put into that role that could have been fine, that could have gone through the motions, that could have made it into something entertaining. Again, I was just thinking, like a Bryan Adams or a Brian Lee, somebody around that time. There's guys you could have put into that role that could have done fine, but Glenn Jacobs was the man, and it is just a little bit of luck and just a little bit of just fate, and timing, having him be the right person in need of this big gimmick change, because you can't just, if he hadn't had the mask, if it was just Isaac Yankem DDS walking out there in red and like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. It can't be that guy. But it's him, the mask, the outfit, the pyro, the way that he's taller than Undertaker, with those little lifts in his boots. The whole presentation of it at Bad Blood 1997, at that Hell in a Cell match, our number one match of the Undertaker's career. That's a huge reason why that whole storyline part of it, man. And
wrestling under a mask. So wrestling, I'm not telling you fans anything you don't already know, but wrestling's all about emotion. And they always say that Vince says, this is your moneymaker right here, your face. When you sell with your face. When you're coming out, he always tells people to smile when the baby faces to come out because the whole world wants to see you smile or whatever. Like, you can't do any of that when you have a mask covering it. So you got to figure out, and it's not like a Rey Mysterio mask where he's got his mouth open. Like, his whole face is covered. So Kane had to also kind of method act, and he does that little cocks his head a little bit. Like, those types of things tell you what the character's thinking and feeling without telling you, because at first he doesn't speak. You don't see his face, you don't see any emotion from him at all. He's just like Taker first was. He's just stoic, and he's there. So that had to be a lot to unlearn, because just like Taker had to unlearn, or not unlearn, but just put all that stuff you've been taught in the back and not do it anymore, because with Isaac Yankem and with Diesel, he was doing that kind of stuff. And especially with Isaac Yankem, he was very theatrical and, showing his nasty yellow teeth and all that stuff and playing to the back row. But now you got to do such subtle things. And again, it takes somebody who knows what they're doing to do that, And
I'll tell you what, not to get ahead of ourselves, but when the time comes for him to take that mask off, that is part of what makes Kane so good with the mask off, is that he's spent 5 years developing these facial expressions.
Yes.
He's doing all those facial expressions underneath the mask, but he's having to do them so big so that you can see them through the mask, through his body language.
Exactly.
And that happens a lot of times with guys who have wrestled with masks on, is that like they actually end up having great facial expressions because they've had to over express throughout their entire body to get that stuff across. So I think in a weird way that helped him later on in his career. But you talk about the head turn. I don't know if it was him or Bruce Pritchard or different interviews. They've talked about him thinking of himself like a puppy dog, or like that's where he kind of modeled that from. That's how a dog would react and look at things, just like confused, and that's where he got that little head tick and head turn from, which is a cool little stat or story.
And it says everything you need to get out of that moment in just a head turn, Yeah. So it's awesome.
And I think a lot of people think Oh yeah, this is obvious. This is a home run. The Undertaker's brother is going to appear. And, okay, yeah, he's probably going to get 20 years out of that. But that wasn't the plan. They've talked about this was supposed to be like a 6-month storyline, and it goes to WrestleMania. Undertaker has an opponent for WrestleMania, squashes him. Bye bye Kane. Okay.
Yep.
This was not intended to be this long running character. Vince Russo didn't have the Highway to Hell, all that storyline planned out originally. It wasn't supposed to work that way.
No.
But because Kane was so good, because that chemistry was there, it became something more. And again, look at Midian. Okay, look at Viscera for a second. These are two guys that couple failed gimmicks, then they get a new gimmick, this dark gimmick, they get tied with The Undertaker. Oh, they're going to put him with The Undertaker in the Ministry of Darkness. Now they're going to succeed. Nah, it didn't work out that way for them. No disrespect to those guys. No. We love Midian and we love Viscera, but Kane's different, man. It's not just because they put him with The Undertaker. Like, it's because there was something there to begin with.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, it's just, he made a long run out of something that was supposed to last, like you said. It's supposed to get into Mania and then be done. That was it, but, he proved his worth and then some, so.
And he's the first guy, I think, when you get to WrestleMania 14, he's the first guy that you really think the streak is in peril. Yeah. Even though we didn't know what the streak was. Right. You really thought, oh, this guy could beat The Undertaker at this point. And he is the first guy, he kicks out of tombstones, at WrestleMania. And Undertaker gives that to him. I'm sure he chose to do that. He didn't have to do that for him, but he wants to establish this guy. Even though he's not going to beat him, he's going to get closer than anybody else has.
Sometimes we talk about it on the show all the time. Sometimes you can get over by losing. Just because you lose doesn't mean you didn't get over. You can get over more with losing sometimes,
That match is the perfect example of it.
Exactly. Perfect. He was a made man after that night. It was the first time they got to go at it in the ring, and I, for one, thought maybe Kane was going to beat him because how wrestling goes. The heel wins one, then babyface wins the next one, and babyface wins the third, the rubber match, and then they win the feud and move on. Like, that's typically how stuff goes. But, Taker wound up winning that. But, yeah, you really could have thought that, Kane could easily win this match. But
and how incredible that they kept these two guys separate for 6 months. They never had a match until WrestleMania. They interacted and Kane burned him in a casket and whatnot and tombstoned him, and they had segments, plenty of segments with each other, but no tag team matches, no 6-man matches, no random Raw main events, nothing. And that's, again, it worked. They had plenty of matches after this one, but they saved that first one and they made it special.
Oh yeah, they did for sure.
Well, tell us about another
on their list.
They did, yeah. A lot of people voted for it in their top 10 or top 20 Undertaker matches. And tell us about another special thing that happened at that first WrestleMania appearance of Kane.
Oh, well, so again, big heel here, but he gets to tombstone Pete Rose, the chicken, San Francisco chicken.
Oh, it's the chicken next year.
Oh, the next year's the chicken, yeah, but he gets to tombstone Pete Rose, so yeah, and that again. It's funny because he got a big pop when he did that, even though he's supposed to be this heel, and he can do that, because he's Kane. His character allows him to do that. So yeah, again, another 3-year run that he had a feud with Pete Rose at WrestleMania. So, so good, man.
It's the perfect example of all the different facets of Kane, like that he can pull off this intense match with The Undertaker, but literally 5 minutes beforehand. He's going to have this stupid segment with Pete Rose that is so bizarre, and yet...
How about it?
Guess who else was in the Hall of Fame? Is Pete Rose because of Kane.
Exactly. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That's
the
crazy.
only Hall of Fame that he's in is because of Kane.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, the summer of '98 would prove to be probably, you could argue, Kane's biggest summer or year in his entire career. He becomes the WWF champion in under a year. So, goes from nearly being fired with these awful gimmicks all the way to WWF champion, even if it's just for one night. It's still an iconic moment.
Doesn't matter.
An iconic night. Yep. Right in the heat of
if you have the number one song in America or in the world or a number one record and you have it for one day, it doesn't matter. You still had it. Kane was a world champion for 24 hours, and that's all that matters is that he had it. Who cares if he lost it?
And he beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. He ended Stone Cold Steve Austin's first world title reign. And that was a huge deal, huge moment. One of my favorite Raws of all time. And then, of course, he gets wrapped up in this highway to hell with Stone Cold and The Undertaker and Mankind and Vince McMahon. And it's probably the best writing that Vince Russo ever did, is just making all of that work and click and make sense. Yeah. Oh, man, I love it so much. Again, the wrestling in the ring, not always the best when you go back and look at it, but the storylines, man, even 23 years later, it still gives you an adrenaline rush.
Oh, it does. And I'm not sure how many of those are going to be on the Peacock anymore because they're starting to cut everything. But, yeah, go back and enjoy those while you can, while they're still there. So, but, yeah, great writing, great stuff. The way that, and again, we talked about this a long time ago in here, when they finally, him and Taker finally, like, teamed up-ish, you know, kind of were on the same side. That's just, you were just like, oh, like this is going to be a nightmare for anybody who gets in the ring with these two guys. I mean, it's like Godzilla and Kong on the same team, you know, like it's just
exactly. Yeah. Oh, great analogy. We got Godzilla versus King Kong on HBO Max now. What if the next movie it's Godzilla and King Kong on the same team together? That's it's like, yes, this is what I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I love that. Well, okay, Kane's in the main event every week on Raw. He's in the main event of pay-per-views. You know, he's become a star in his own right. And so after 1998, he kind of breaks off for the first time away from The Undertaker and away from being connected with him after The Undertaker starts this Ministry of Darkness. And, you know, they're always loosely tied to each other. But 1999 is where we really start to see the personality of Kane come out with the first of many oddball tag teams that Kane has throughout his career. And the first one is with X-Pac, and then they add in a girlfriend for him with Tori.
First of many girlfriends he's going to have on TV as well. I mean,
many.
Yeah, it's like a limidate with him, dude. He's just going through. Who decided Kane was like the happiest,
Kelly.
Like the biggest bachelor there is?
AJ. I don't know. He had a lot of them, man.
That's great. It just occurred to me, like, how many women he's, like, kayfabe been with on TV. Man, that's hilarious.
I think Eve. I think there was
Katie
Eve involved at one point.
We'll get there.
Real ladies, man.
Yeah. Man, him and X-Pac, and we talked about it on the show, like, just how over X-Pac was, and just giving a little bit of that rub to Kane, too, and how over both of them were. Everybody in the Attitude Era was, but just that tag match, those tag matches with them were fantastic, you know? Fantastic. Really good stuff. X-Pac took all the heat and got the beat down. Kane come in for the hot tag, you know, round out the match, and it was just a perfect, Vince loves those strange bedfellows, you know, tag team match, like team-ups, and Kane, like you just mentioned, he's maybe the king of having those, like big scary monster, smaller guy, or whomever it might be, but like Kane's always the one that they get to play off of. So it makes for great TV,
dude, without question. I mean, it's the chemistry that he had with guys throughout his career. X-Pac, RVD, Hurricane, Daniel Bryan, you name it. Whoever you put Kane in there with, the big guy, little guy dynamic. It was so great. He gets to make the hot tag, come in, choke slam, run wild. We joke about Undertaker being the tag team specialist. Kane, tag team specialist of all time. He gets to take that title from now on. But yeah, he shows some personality with X-Pac. He gets to drop the voice box gimmick.
Yes.
It just an iconic promo where he says, "Suck it."
I remember watching that live, man, at our old friend of ours house on a Monday night, man. It was just, I remember watching him say "suck it," and I was just like, "What?
I know.
This is like, it was blown away, man.
God,
blown away."
X-Pac is good in that. I'm so glad X-Pac's a 2-time Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he is.
He deserves it. Yeah.
And it's with two factions.
Two different factions.
X-Pac's
Oh
the man.
man, I love X-Pac.
Me too.
Kind of the next iconic moment that I thought of with Kane's career, it's got to be the Royal Rumble 2001, dude. That is the night that he eliminates. Is it 11? Okay,
11 people that night.
11 guys in one night. Never had been done before. A record that stood for a long time in WWE history. I believe
the only people to beat it, I think, are Braun and Roman. Roman beat it first,
right,
maybe, and then Braun has. So it's good company.
But Braun's was in a 50-man Royal Rumble.
Exactly.
So it's almost like you can't even count that. But
what's
Roman,
the exchange rate of that?
Yeah. But again, a match that Kane didn't win, but he established himself in and got to have a huge moment to shine. Went down as a legendary performance in that night, and that's what you remember about that Royal Rumble is Kane eliminating 11 dudes in it.
And they don't think they counted Drew Carey. It should have been 12, in my opinion, because Drew Carey just hopped
did,
out. So.
Because of Kane, you're right.
Yeah, but
dude, another guy that Kane made a Hall of Famer. Kane is responsible for like
there's so many
1/5 of a celebrity Hall of Fame, man.
Yeah, exactly. So we used to always joke on here about how Taker created all this stuff, and Kane's creating Hall of Famers, dude.
Absolutely.
He's like, I'll raise you one. Hold my beer. It's like, I got it. But, man, and he eliminates guys like Grandmaster Sexay, I think Raven, some, mid, lower card guys. But he also eliminates the great one, The Rock, in that night. Like, so not just playing the mid, lower card. He eliminates another Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, The Rock. Future president 2032, right, according to his documentary TV show that's already out. So, but anyway, yeah.
Dude, what a flex by Dwayne Johnson to just go ahead and proclaim that he's going to be president in 12 years, because it's 100% going to happen. Of course, Kane shows his versatility throughout 2001 as he has this fun little run as the hardcore champion. He kind of sets the stage for Undertaker to be hardcore champion later on in 2001. But Kane takes this hardcore title, a sort of already a joke of a title at this point. It had only been around for a little while, but it was kind of, already like this nothing belt. Yeah. But he takes it and he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go out and have this banger match at WrestleMania with Big Show and Raven. I'm going to go out and I'm going to take this assignment, and I'm not going to look at it as a punishment or a demotion or something. I'm going to have some awesome matches.
Yeah, exactly. And my two favorite hardcore matches in WWE are that and the one the next month with Raven and Rhino. But, I don't know, man. Taker and
RVD was pretty great.
I'm sorry. Those are my top three hardcore matches in WWE history. Yeah, man, that match is great and it's fun. And, yeah, he makes whatever he's doing worth watching, So he becomes Intercontinental Champion during this time as well. Yeah.
Yep. It has
which is the workhorse title.
Right.
Kane gets it.
And that just that shows you he's a different kind of worker and different kind of performer than the Undertaker. Yes. Undertaker never held the IC title. He never held those mid-card belts. Had the hardcore title for a minute, but really wasn't that ever running that mid-card show. But Kane did. Dude, he had a incredible SmackDown 5-minute match that I still remember to this day against Albert.
Love it. Love that match. And I think that's where Albert beats him for the IC title, which sucks, but great match.
Why do you love it?
Because Kane does and Hurricane Rana.
Hurricane Rana.
Yeah. Hurricane Rana, dude, is so good.
I think it's the only time he ever did it. Yeah.
Yeah. On a SmackDown. I was reading some notes about that match today, and I was reading there was a guy on Reddit, he was saying that at house shows, during the house show loop, they were doing that. And he said his dad to this day remembers, will still say, remember when that big guy did that move on the other bald guy? And so I guess he was doing it at house shows too, and then maybe they got permission to put it on TV. because that happens a lot of times. They'll try stuff out on the house shows and they get the green light to go. But so I thought that was I love that match. It's a blast. It's just fun to watch. I don't love Albert, but I love that match because of Kane.
yeah, I think that's the funny thing about Kane. I was thinking about today when I was thinking about some of my favorite Kane matches is like a lot of times big guys have better chemistry with little guys. Undertaker, some of his best matches, Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, Bret Hart, those guys where you could do the big man, little man dynamic. You think of Vader and Sting and like how awesome those like the best ones of all time. And Kane had those, but I almost think Kane actually had some of my favorite Kane matches are against big guys. Like Kane, for some reason, could do that monster versus monster, Godzilla versus King Kong match. I think those I enjoyed even more than the big guy versus little guy matches. I don't know what it was about him, but for some reason he pulled those off.
You're right. Yeah.
He had a special skill for that, and those don't. I think more often than not, the big guy versus big guy matches don't work, but Kane could make them work.
He could make them work, man. And remember that match him and Big Show like chain wrestling?
Yes! Oh my gosh.
They like doing mat work and stuff, and it was awesome. Jim Ross is like not knowing what to do. He's like freaking out.
It's so funny. Yeah.
I think that's an astute observation, man. Kane does really do well with big guys too. So, which is like you said, not typical. You just kind of like usually it's a snooze fest. Two big guys going at it, but he could have great chemistry with big guys too.
Well, another moment he had great chemistry with was with two of the biggest legends of all time, The Rock and Hulk Hogan. Dude, this promo that Kane cut, probably the best promo of his career.
Oh, yeah.
This is a moment that everyone remembers with Kane.
Yes.
And again, I think it's establishing him with the company in fans' eyes. Kane stole a promo away from the two greatest talkers of all time, The Rock and Hulk Hogan, on this episode of SmackDown. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah, he did. I will never forget watching that live as well and just being like blown away. How just out of left field, here comes Kane with this promo, like you said, and just outshines The Rock and Hulk Hogan, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And then the whole crowd is eating it up. Yeah.
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 And how cool of Rock and Hogan to, like, take a back seat.
Exactly.
And, like, make Kane in that way. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, Hogan could have said, that doesn't work for me, brother. But he
exactly.
didn't. They let them have that. So, that's great, man.
So many awesome Kane moments that we talked about here. That gets us to 2001 and then into 2002. We sort of mentioned it. Kane's going to go on to this tag team with Hurricane, which again seems like this random thing. We got nothing else for you. Just, hey, your name's Kane. His name's Hurricane. Why don't y'all be a tag team tonight?
Yep.
Guess what? They go win the tag team titles. You know what? They make it work. They have this awesome TLC match, the forgotten TLC match on Monday Night Raw. And then
7-man TLC match because
Hurricane's not actually
beat up by Triple H during the night. That was the whole night was Raw Roulette. It was a gimmicky night, but it was a lot of fun. I think they're going to edit a lot of that off the Peacock too. So,
well, do you think they'll edit the name Katie Vick off of the Peacock network?
That's the night that they announced that Kane killed Katie Vick. Right after this epic, up to that point, one of the best Raw matches ever. At that point, so fun. Good story,
I think it
too,
won when they did the Raw 10th anniversary. I think that got voted at that time as the best Raw match.
I think you're right. It just it was fun because fun night because Bischoff it was Kane and Hurricane, and then he had Jeff Hardy, Bubba Ray, and Christian. They all had to pick a tag team partner because their partners were all on SmackDown. So it was a fun story, man. So
it was.
Yeah, I think it was
a great match.
And Christian, RVD, and Jeff, and then Bubba and
Spike. Yeah.
Yeah, he picked somebody else first, then Spike got sad or something, so he picked Spike later. But yeah, Kane. Just match is great. Kane winds up winning it to retain his title, and then we find out that he's murdered. Katie Vick.
Yeah, dude, again, one of our signatures of the Talking Taker podcast, the Vince Russo Memorial Broment of the Week, which was a segment that we had throughout this period on our show where we talked about some of those awful, terrible wrestle crap moments that we all remember.
Yeah.
And we think about, that seems like that should be a Vince Russo storyline. And Vince Russo gets all this crap for all the stuff that he did in the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. Some of it rightly deserved, certainly. But some of the worst stuff he had nothing to do with. And the Katie Vick storyline is the perfect example of a Vince Russo Broment of the Week. That seems like the most Vince Russo storyline imaginable, that Kane got in a drunk driving accident in high school or something like that, killed his girlfriend, and then took advantage of the corpse of her. And Triple H gave a promo stating that. It's just like, what are we watching? What is this? Like, it's the complete opposite of the Kane Undertaker storyline, which again has nothing to do with professional wrestling, but somehow works. Katie Vick. Oh man, it was a brutal time to be a fan.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss. Yeah, it was brutal. But is that the one with going into No Mercy when him and Taker are sitting there on like, how's your week? Yeah.
It did lead to that, yes. It also led to Triple H molesting a mannequin and pulling her brains out. Probably the most embarrassed I've ever been to be a wrestling fan.
Oh,
I could not imagine if my mom or dad had walked in at that point.
Golly. I can't even drink that in. It's awful. Yeah, it was so bad. So bad. Ooh, man.
Well, it kind of moves on from there to some more stuff. A new tag team partner in Rob Van Dam. Maybe my favorite. Probably Daniel Bryan's my favorite. But RVD and Kane were great. Loved seeing them team up.
Oh, yeah.
Really great backstage segments with those guys. Again, just so much personality. Such great comedy backstage between those guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were just fun. And, again, playing it off Kane and just he could do comedy with RVD and talk about pot jokes or whatever it is, or he could just be the serious guy that doesn't understand anything RVD's talking about. He could do any of it, and so it was just, Kane's just a utility player, man.
And then that leads into his next main event role. We're really trying to establish him as the main storyline on Raw, because in summer of 2003 is when we see Kane do the unthinkable and unmask for the very, not the first time, because we actually saw him briefly at, I think, SummerSlam 2000 when Undertaker pulls his mask off, and if you pause the tape at the right time, you can see his face. But he lost a match on Raw and then has to unmask. I'll never forget watching it live. I think we were watching it together, probably at my house. How would you describe his look as he took the mask off for the first time on that night?
Oh, golly, man. I don't even know what to say except for oof. Like, he looked terrible. I was just like, I wish they had left his hair long. I mean, he's got his head shaved from the middle back, and he's got like this kinky, curly, like brown hair, and he's got black paint on his eyes, and like it's dripping down his face, and it's just, oh man, I know exactly what they were going for, but another swing and a miss in my book. It was just like, we've waited 6 years to see what his face looked like, and it was just like, holy cow, man. I think when he took the mask off and the wig came off too, I was like, I didn't feel it. So
I gotta tell you, I was not expecting the wig to come off and to be half a head of hair on there.
Yeah.
Do you think they were gonna go with that as like the new look for Kane, and he was just like, I can't do it?
He said that he told them, I can't do this. Like, I think it was I don't remember which podcast he was on, but he talked about, I just told him, like, I can't do this half hair thing. Like, I can't do it. He looks like just like some guy that works, like, comes in your town and puts up a fair, like in like a day. And then the fair leaves the next week, and then he goes with his little skullet and his chain smoking and goes and He looks like that basically. But yeah, he just finally said like, I can't do that. Like I'm still, because he still would shave his head from the halfway back.
He
Front
sure
half
did.
Would still be like naked, and the back half would just be buzzed. Yeah, but
incredible.
Yeah, he said like, I can't, man. I got a wife and kids, man. Like I can't do this. But yeah, it was something.
And this is where they really turn Kane into this demonic, psychotic, serial killer type.
Yeah.
They really amp Kane up even more. This is where he lights Jim Ross on fire. This is where he tombstones Linda McMahon. This is where he electrocutes Shane McMahon's testicles.
Yeah.
Does all this absurd stuff.
Yeah, but they take the whole, like you said, the monster thing to a new level. He comes out in like shackles a time or two.
I love that. It's my favorite Kane entrance.
Yes, that's my best Kane entrance. I only did it a couple times, I think, or maybe once even. But he'd have the rag on his head like Taz used to, and I liked that whole thing. He was, really playing the psychotic. He got to go on a whole new level of acting, when it came to this, and just being crazy, but he could dial it back in when he wanted to. I feel like I didn't want to see the mask removed, but once it got removed, I was like, okay, this is what it is. And like he was able to just become a dynamic actor and character at that point. I didn't know that removing the mask was going to reveal so much more than just his face. It was going to reveal, the commitment to the character and just more nuance to it too.
Bingo. Yeah, man. It's like when Undertaker became the biker taker in a lot of ways. It extended his life as a character and as a performer because he was able to refresh himself and change it up in so many ways. And you would never say, I want the dead man to go away. Like, no one thought that at the time, but it's exactly what he needed. And just like this, no one wanted Kane to lose his mask, but it's exactly what he needed. And it gave him so many more layers. It allowed him to become, even though he became more extreme and more ridiculous, almost more believable and more human in a lot of ways to have the mask off. And it leads. Oh, go ahead.
I was just thinking of other characters that have been demasked. Like I think in WCW, I think of Rey, Mysterio, Psychosis, Hoovy. All they were when they lost their mask was just Hoovy without a mask. Like I mean, he was able to kind of go into this, rockish type character, but
the juice.
Psychosis and Rey were just Psychosis and Rey without mask anymore. Like they weren't anything else. Like I'm thinking WWE, there's really nobody that had not a lot of masked wrestlers there at the time or anything before that. But yeah, I mean, he was able to take it and just become a whole new iteration of the character, man. Like I think comparing it to Biker Taker is a great example there. Just added new life to the character that you didn't know you wanted or needed until it happened.
Yeah. I mean, Rey Mysterio probably never really committed to being unmasked. He never wanted that. He never bought into that. Kane did.
Kane wanted to be.
Kane was like, let's do it. Let's roll with it. Let's go with it. That leads to some more insanity with Lita and this dark wedding he has with Lita. Matt Hardy feud gets Lita pregnant. That brings in the character of Snitsky and another
not a future Hall of Famer.
Hilarious moment where Snitsky kicks the baby doll and it wasn't my fault.
I'll never forget that night. Yeah.
No.
Now I think that his dentist was Isaac Yankem though, because he had the same yellow teeth.
He did. He did. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a little connection there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about random good matches that had no right being good? I rewatched it today because I've always remembered it. But Kane and Snitsky had a cage match on Raw in the middle of their feud in like 2005, and it's like 7 minutes, but to me it reminded me of a monster movie because it's like these two guys, they just beat the crap out of each other. They're no selling. Snitsky pulls the door off the cage. It's just a fun little TV match that when did Snitsky ever have another good match? But Kane is able to like make it work with him, and for some reason I've always remembered that.
Yeah, he had one good match and that was it. So that's all. He owes it all to Kane.
He owes it all to Kane. We owe Kane a debt of gratitude for the first ever WWE film, See No Evil, which comes about pretty soon after this. Do you remember going to see that together in the theater?
Me, you, and Big Rich, man, went and saw that in theater, man. We were so stoked. I look back at it now, it's like, why were we stoked, man? But we were stoked, dude. Really, and honestly, nobody else would have been able to, like, if you put a Big Show in that, I wouldn't have bought it as much. If you put Taker in it, I wouldn't have bought it as much. Because it was Kane, I was able to buy into the Jacob Goodnight character on May 19th, I believe it was. So,
oh, yes,
I'm not mistaken.
We will never forget. And man, WWE Films was something they really invested a lot of money and a lot of time.
At the time, they did, yeah.
It still exists. You know, they're still making, as far as I know. But, you know, they were making movies until the past couple years, you know, direct-to-video stuff. But that was a huge endeavor for them.
Yeah.
Who's the first guy that they turned to? The very first WWE film that they're trying to establish this with, they go with Kane. And I think that says a lot, that they think it's going to work. It doesn't quite work. It's sort of a cult classic, you know, sort of a so bad it's good kind of thing. They did make a sequel to it, to Jacob Goodnight.
I remember buying the DVD. Like, can't wait to buy
still
the
have
DVD.
it.
Yeah.
For sure.
He makes that girl eat that cell phone. It's fantastic.
But, of course, that leads to fake Kane. The big LG, Luke Gallows, gets to be fake
Good
Kane.
brother.
Much like we had fake Undertaker. Very memorable moment.
Yeah, look at that.
Another tag team partner. Kane gets to team up with The Big Show to have a fun little run as tag team champions. They get a WrestleMania match against Carlito and Chris Masters.
That's right.
Yeah. And then, again, Kane is just sort of in this time period. He's the utility guy. He's whatever you need, somebody dependable to rely on to fill in. He's the guy. He's in the first Money in the Bank match. He has this tag team with Big Show. He becomes the ECW champion on this brand that they have no idea what to do with. Let's throw Kane over there, have him beat Chavo Guerrero in 8 seconds at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he's a guy that no matter how far he falls down the card, all it takes is one match to bring him back up to the main event.
Yeah.
And he's got the pedigree where he's not, no pun intended for Triple H, but like like you said, he ended Austin's first title run. Like, that's insane to me. It wasn't somebody else. It was Kane. So, like, he's got the clout. Like you said, as much as he slips down. Big Show's the same way, except I don't buy Big Show as much. Big Show should be that way, but he's been so beat down, had so many twists, had so many turns, so many flip-flops back and forth, that he should be on the same level with Kane where you can just jump him up in the main event and I buy it, but I don't. No offense to Big Show, it's the character, not Paul White, but the character. But Kane, the ridiculous stuff Kane does is fine because it's Kane. And then you slot him back up there in the main event, whether it's ECW or he's going to win the WWE or the world title here soon, I believe, too, in the timeline. So, like, you can always put him right back up there, and it's fine. It's believable.
Yeah, dude. You look at the timeline of WWE, there's so many guys who they win the world title. Who's one of the first guys they move on to a feud with is Kane. Chris Benoit, when he first won the world title, he has a pay-per-view match with Kane.
Who?
Yeah, sorry.
Daniel Bryan.
Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan. These are all guys. And again, is it ever in doubt that Kane's going to win the world title? No. No one really thinks he's going to win. And yet somehow he's able to make this storyline work. He's able to make you care about the match and able to have a good match with all these guys.
Because at any moment they could give that title to Kane and you would believe it, you know?
Well, they
There's
did.
always the threat.
In 2010, he wins the Money in the Bank at the very first Money in the Bank pay-per-view and is the first person to ever cash the Money in the Bank in on the same night over Rey Mysterio.
Okay.
Yeah, and he begins this really, really interesting feud with The Undertaker in 2010.
Yeah.
And I gained so much respect for Kane when we were watching this back because Undertaker's injured. Kane is having to carry this feud with promos on his own. This is the time where Undertaker's in a vegetative state. Kane is coming out and he's cutting these monologue, scripted 15-minute promos. They have music piped in behind it. It's so cinematic and very, Bray Wyatt, Fiend, Alexa Bliss. esque type stuff, similar to what they do now. But it was live in front of fans, and he just crushed it week after week after week, and was able to do this stuff. And he really earned that last world title reign, and was so entertaining to watch. I'm sure it was probably tough for the live crowd to sit through some of this stuff, but man, I just gained so much respect for him during this time.
Oh yeah.
It was the first time he ever pinned Undertaker, was during this rivalry as well.
And he not only did he pin him once, he defeated him in 3 different pay-per-views, which again is a testament to that character. They're building that character again, put more clout behind him, so that that at any moment he's always a main eventer. But he finally gets the win over his brother after 13 years of on and off again feuding, and definitively defeats him. Like I mentioned a little while ago, usually if you're going to have 3 matches, overall the babyface wins 2 out of 3 of them, and that's how you tell the end of the story, but that's not what happened here. The heel won once, the heel won twice, the heel won 3 times, and they moved on. So it's crazy.
Gets to have these final moments with Paul Bearer. The last times that we're going to get to see him on TV is with Kane. And then something interesting happens in 2000, late 2011, early 2012. Kane goes away for a little while, and then his next comeback, he comes back with the mask. After 7 or 8 years of being unmasked, he's going to come back with the mask and with hair all of a sudden. Again, after not having hair for a long time. It's very interesting.
Was this the welder mask, or is it?
It
just
also had an entrance mask over his other mask.
Like you would do on the video game, like on No Mercy or something. You could have entrance attire and then take it off, and So he had 2 fake masks and fake hair. So.
How'd you feel about this comeback and this new look for Kane?
At the time, I was like, well, it's something. I don't know why we have 2 masks. But it's something. But yeah, seeing him with long hair again was different, but you could tell it was a wig. But I appreciated them going back to the old plans and trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle, I guess.
Yeah, and they throw him in with a feud with John Cena. The Embrace the Hate storyline, and it's I don't know, man. It's definitely not his best stuff. No. It's a little weird having him have the mask and the wig back again. It's like, we can stretch our belief in wrestling a long way, but it's like, what are we doing here? A lot of that stuff, but it all pays off. It's all worth it because it organically leads to this bizarre team up between Kane and Daniel Bryan. So the internet darling of Daniel Bryan at the time, with the most WWE guy ever, Kane. It's like, this should not work. I should not be a fan of this. It's like, I do not want to see these guys. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan against CM Punk. That's all I want to see.
Yep.
I want to see these 2 guys wrestle for 60 minutes. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan doing comedy segments with Kane. And yet, it's the greatest, perfect use of both these guys. It's just, you can't put over how well these 2 guys made this situation work.
Yeah, and they've both gone on record saying that this is one of their favorite times in the business. Just the respect they got for each other, and just, oh man, their chemistry is perfect. Like, you didn't know Daniel Bryan had this in him. He's got a different kind of charisma about him. But you didn't know he had this, and we had seen Kane do this before with RVD, with Hurricane, with X-Pac. But this was something else, and probably my favorite tag team of his, and I just love it. And dude, how do you get a 12-minute segment of 2 guys? Are they gonna hug? Are they not gonna hug? And the crowd was there for it the whole time.
They were.
That stuff is risky. That was risky timing, because it's like an SNL skit that's funny, and it's funny, but then it keeps going, it never ends. and it was funny, and now it's not funny anymore, and then it's still going. It should have been that, but it wasn't. The crowd was there the entire time, and once they finally embrace, oh man, the roof comes off the place.
It does,
dude. So awesome.
It's
I
so
loved
stupid,
it.
but so great. It's everything that makes pro wrestling great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is amazing.
Amazing.
I love it.
You talk about doing dives off of cages and doing 100 backflips to try to get yourself over. Sometimes all it takes is just a little hug.
Yep.
Good storytelling. The anger management stuff. Kane recounts his entire backstory.
That promo, that story right there. And he just recaps his whole entire career. It's like, okay, yeah. I remember the whole thing with Dr. Shelby. Like, was something going on or some of that? But I don't remember what the question was that, begged him to answer that. But just that whole thing was phenomenal. And just all of the Harry Met Sally stuff with Mae Young. I'll have what he said. Like, that just was stupid, but it was funny because it was them, man. It was great.
Another guy that Kane made. Dr. Shelby came back with Sasha and Bailey years later.
That's true.
But guess what? They were not just great in their comedy segments. They were awesome in the ring. There was that time period where it'd be Kane and Daniel Bryan and somebody else against the Shield on Raw every week, just stealing the show. Yeah.
10-star matches every week, man. Just great. And, it's because you were emotionally invested in the Kane character and in Daniel Bryan at the time. I listened to a Busted Open recently, and it's not veering too far, but Bubba Ray said that, if you see a car crash on the side of the road, you rubberneck and you check it out, but then you move on and you forget about the car crash 5 minutes later. But if you see a car crash and it's one of your family members in it, or somebody a friend of yours, you're going to probably stop, or you're going to wonder and worry about those people. It's a little bit dark. Maybe it's Big Show. Big Show on Jericho's Big Show and Miro. That's what it was. Big Show and Miro. And he was talking about that. And he says, it's a little dark, but like that applies to wrestling. You can watch a car crash match that's just high spot, this, that. But then you go 5 minutes down the road and you forget about it because you're not emotionally attached to these guys. But we're emotionally attached to Kane because he's been there forever at this point. And Daniel Bryan is the ultimate underdog thing, just like Ray is. And, like, they haven't even had Yes-Mania yet, but, like, he's getting there. This is the seeds being planted for WrestleMania 30 where he's going to be on top. And, like, you're invested because that car crash, those matches with the Shield are phenomenal car crashes. Yep. But you're also emotionally attached to these two guys in it, man. So, anyway, good job, Big Show, for saying that. I'm going to steal it. So, yeah.
He knows what he's talking about. Yeah. We hate him, but we know he knows what he's talking about. Real quick, I want to mention Kane putting over Bray Wyatt in Bray Wyatt's first match on the main roster, that Ring of Fire match at SummerSlam. So he helps put Bray Wyatt on the map. And then Kane goes away for a little while and becomes, again, 16, 17 years into his run? He evolves again and becomes Corporate Kane in his black Dockers and takes the mask off and becomes this...
Has it in a little box. The mask goes in a little box. Yeah.
Again, he has a new role that they give him, and he's just like, okay, I'll make this work now.
Yep. And I always called him... I wish they had called him Citizen Kane. I thought that would have been a much... I know it's probably trademarked here, but Corporate Kane, I get it, but to me that was 99 Corporate Ministries. I wanted this to be Citizen Kane, but the authority whole thing was a little bit much, and the way they held Daniel Bryan down, yada yada. But if you're gonna get two big guys to be your stooges, Kane and Big Show are gonna be it. That's fine. Yeah. But I liked Corporate Kane. I liked the Citizen Kane era. I liked how he would come out and wrestle as that, and in his slacks. It was just so dumb. It could have been any meathead off the street that Vince loved. But it was because it was Kane. You're emotionally invested in whatever's going on. So
yeah, he makes that role work. He's kind of an authority figure on Raw / wrestler and performer. He gets to extend his life in that way, but he's not done.
Eliminates Punk from those final WrestleMania.
Oh my gosh,
his final match ever. And I always ticked about that. Ticked about that. But anyway, go ahead.
He's not done main eventing. He goes on, comes back, sporadically has this feud with Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. They're in the main event of a pay-per-view for a world title in the year 2018. After all this time, of course, we had a very long discussion about it, but is involved in the Crown Jewel match with DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, which is, it is something else.
I take my wig off to them. Yeah.
Yes, we do. On a more positive note, he gets to main event with The Undertaker against the Wyatt family at Survivor Series 2014, or 2015, excuse me, The Undertaker's 25th anniversary. Really cool match and moment for those two guys. And then, as his in-ring career, it winds down. It becomes more of a just sort of part-timer, now and then guy. He goes off and makes this new career outside of wrestling as a politician and runs for mayor and wins in Knox County, Tennessee. How many celebrities run for political office and just peter out? But Kane made it work and is very successful in his role there. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he's very successful in his area and where he's at. It has not stopped him from being on TV. He won the 24/7 championship on TV. And as we said, he competed in the Royal Rumble just as late as this year. And then got to cap it all off as the headliner of this year's Hall of Fame class. What do you think about that?
I think it's great, man. He's definitely deserved the main event spot for the Hall of Fame. Although a lot of fans were holding out hope that Taker would come, maybe at Mania since there were fans there and, give him a little head nod or something. But I'm glad he did, and just let Kane have his moment. Because if I thought about that, I was like, if they would have had the whole Hall of Fame class up there, and all of a sudden the lights go out and the gong hits, it takes away from everything those guys deserve. So I'm glad they didn't do that because those guys deserve it, especially Kane, being the headliner there for 2021. So I think it's great, man. Hall of Fame career for sure. One of the great big men. Dude, in that, I think it's that hardcore match, he does a top rope, like the dive, the hardcore match at WrestleMania 17. Like when he does a jumping, diving, close off top rope, or whatever, he does it to the floor in that match.
Yeah.
He does it to Big Shows like Goozle and Raven, and he does it to him on the floor. And that is just, he didn't have to do that. He's huge, a big dude. But that's just the kind of guy he is, man. He's great. So Hall of Fame career, absolutely,
man. It's one of those things. People talk about Chavo Guerrero, like how if he didn't happen to have Eddie Guerrero as his uncle, people would think Chavo Guerrero is like one of the greatest guys of all time. And Chavo Guerrero's great, but unfortunately, he always has to live in Eddie Guerrero's shadow.
Yeah.
But also, because of his connection with Eddie Guerrero, he got to have so many iconic moments in that tag team, and got in WCW they had great moments and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kane is sort of the same way. He's always going to be in Undertaker's shadow, no matter what happens, no matter what he did in his career. He's always going to be the Undertaker's baby brother. For better and for worse. Because without that character, he'd be a guy that's at WrestleCon with 10 people in his line.
Yeah, exactly. No
matter how talented he is, he just never had that right gimmick to make it work. But because of that Kane gimmick, he absolutely made way more of it than anybody else ever could have, and got to be the first, the main event of a Hall of Fame.
Yep.
But it does kind of suck that, he does always have to live in the Undertaker's shadow because on his own, it's a pretty incredible run. One of the longest runs with the company of all time. Spans so many eras, so many decades, and he's in the Hall of Fame. But you never know; he could still show up. He's in phenomenal shape every time he shows up.
Yeah, he could still wrestle on not as regularly as Edge, but he could still always come back and put those tights on. And I honestly thought he was going to show up in his outfit at the Hall of Fame since he did for taking retirement.
Of course he did.
I thought he was going to be in his outfit.
Yeah,
so,
too bad.
It's all good.
Yeah, man. Well, we kind of ran through sort of a very loose outline of his entire career, some of the highlights, some of the moments. I just wanted to hit some stats and some numbers about his career because it's incredibly impressive when you look at all of it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as title reigns, he was a one-time WWF champion or WWE champion, one-time World Heavyweight champion, one-time ECW champion, a one-time WCW Tag Team champion there during the Invasion, one-time Hardcore champion, one-time 24/7 champion, two-time Intercontinental champion, and here's the big one: 11 times he held the Tag Team Championship.
Golly.
So that's 2 title runs with Mankind, 2 with X-Pac, 2 with The Undertaker as the Brothers of Destruction, 2 with The Big Show, 1 with Hurricane, 1 with RVD, 1 with Daniel Bryan. Whoever you put Kane in tag team with, they were going to get the gold at some point.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. 11, man. Wow.
Yeah, an incredible tag team wrestler.
How many partners? 7?
Let's see. Daniel Bryan, Hurricane, RVD, Big Show, Taker, X-Pac, Mankind. Yep. 7 different partners, 7 tag team champions. Money in the Bank champion. And like I said, the most Money in the Bank appearances of all time, tied with Kofi Kingston. 2-time Slammy Award winner, including 1 match of the year for the Team Cena versus Team Authority match in 2014.
Ooh,
he was a part
great
of.
match.
Of course, when you talk about Kane, you got to talk about the Royal Rumble, the most Royal Rumble appearances ever as well. 18, but also you could say 20 because he appeared in 1 as Isaac Yankem and 1 as Fake Diesel. So either 20 or 18, depending on how you want to say it. 18 as Kane. 45 eliminations as Kane of all time, which I believe is the most of all time.
And a fourth of those were in 1 match. It's
exactly. And then he certainly does not have the same WrestleMania record as The Undertaker. Instead, he has an 8-9 record at WrestleMania. And that's not including pre-shows. So he was actually, weirdly enough, he's on a few pre-shows. He had a tag team match on one, and then a couple Andre Battle Royal appearances on those. But what a strange WrestleMania run. We didn't always talk about these, but listen to this WrestleMania run. 2 matches against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. 2 Money in the Bank WrestleMania appearances. Excuse me, 3. I believe he's in 3 Money in the Banks at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think he's in 3.
He's in 3 Andre Battle Royals. He's in 3 pre-show matches at WrestleMania. He's had tag team matches at WrestleMania with Rikishi, Daniel Bryan, The Big Show, a 6-man tag with the New Age Outlaws, an 8-man tag with The Big Show, Santino, and Kofi as his partners. He has an 8-second squash over Chavo Guerrero. And he has singles matches against Triple H, Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, and the Great Khali.
Wow, him and Khali, I forgot about that. That was at Mania.
He body slams him.
Yeah. Dude, I blocked that on my mind. Yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. He's just all over the place. Again, utility player. You can put him anywhere on the chessboard, and he'll get you king. So,
not to mention a rivalry with Pete Rose at WrestleMania.
Yeah, he's 3-0.
And then I saw this on Wikipedia. I thought this was really interesting that Kane has appeared in nearly every licensed WWE video game since, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, 1998's WWF Warzone, with the only exception being the 2001 game WWF Betrayal. And then from the 1990s to the end of the 2010s, Kane had 222 action figures manufactured.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's crazy.
Incredible.
That's crazy. That's insane. That's a lot of stats. Kane by numbers, man.
Very toyetic, as they say on the Major Brothers Wrestling Figure Podcast. So many different outfits. A guy who, if you didn't even care one thing about wrestling, you would see that with the mask and the red and everything. You see that on the pegs, and you'd be like, "Oh, I could play with that with Power Rangers or X-Men or Avengers or whatever."
Yep, exactly. Yeah, very toyetic. Jericho talks about that a lot. Just change your look up, Ray. Change your look up. To make it make a new toy. Take your mask off. Take your mask on. Do the welder's mask. He remember when he would do he did the mesh stuff. He did the one arm, the two arm. He never did shorts though. So that's
he did not.
But
that's interesting. Yeah, he never did trunks.
I loved when he had the when he would switch the colors, like take the red and the black and just switch where they were on the. Those were some of my favorites that he would do. So.
Well, that brings me to how I wanted to kind of wrap things up here as we get to the end of this. Wanted to talk about sort of our number ones, our favorite different categories of Kane's career. If you have to look back at it, what's your favorite look for Kane? Because he did change it up so many times throughout his career. Is there one, period where you loved it? Is there one single night where you're like, oh man, I remember that outfit?
I think the Kane outfit we get when he does that promo with the 10,000 Canaanites and all. I think that look, that's probably my favorite Kane look. Now the original is very iconic, but it's almost too. It's very 1997. It's very I don't know, man. Almost just like costumey rather than an outfit. Does that make sense? And
oh yeah.
So I think I like that 2001, 2002-ish era before he loses the part of the mask down here. Like I don't. Yeah, but.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Dude, I love the original from when he first debuted, but the peak Kane, in my opinion, is, sleeveless, tank top, and he's jacked during that time. It's the best shape he's ever been in. But he's still got the original mask.
Yes,
like
exactly.
My least favorite Kane is probably the one right after that. The one where he loses his mask eventually. I don't like that mask and that gear with it's like the red, like almost like tape, electrical tape and stuff on there. That's probably my least favorite Kane outfit. But I really loved, I think it's Survivor Series 2001, where it's like straight red. And kind of inverts the colors on that night. That's one of my favorite looks.
That's a good one.
That's a great one. Yeah. How about your favorite entrance music of Kane? Yeah, he had a few different ones throughout his time.
My favorite is the original. Honestly, it is. I wasn't a big fan of the lyrics in it.
That's my favorite.
That's probably your favorite one. Yeah, I knew it was gonna be your favorite one. Yeah. But my favorite's just the original. The original, it really is. It just does something to me. I just remember it and I think back to Hell in a Cell, like when he debuted. I don't know. I just like that one the best.
Yeah, it is perfect. It's iconic and it goes along perfect with his entrance, with the build up and then the flames shooting out. Another thing we didn't talk about, Kane, he said he modeled his entrance to try to be sort of the opposite of the Undertaker. Undertaker raises the lights with his hand.
Yep.
Kane brings his hands down and brings the flames up. He put so much attention to detail into things. And yeah, it's another perfect Jim Johnston creation. But I got a soft spot in my heart for the Figure 11.
I know you do.
Slow Chemical. God, it's still. I was jamming out to it earlier today, just knowing we were doing this podcast.
It's funny.
All right, we talked about all those different tag team partners that Kane had through the years. What's your favorite tag team run that Kane ever had?
Him and Dan Bryan, my favorite. It's just the most. I love him and X-Pac. But this was the most entertaining and the best matches you're gonna get from him and his partner. It just, like you said, it was just for like a few months there. It was just Kane, DB, insert third person here versus the Shield, and it was just gold, Jerry, gold. That's all it was, man.
Yeah, it has to be. I think Kane and RVD, like we said earlier, I think that one's probably my second favorite. They had some fun matches. They actually had a match against the Legion of Doom on an episode of Monday Night Raw, in 2003. No, it was Hawk and Animal. It was like a few months before Hawk died. They had a one-off tryout on an episode of Raw against Kane and RVD.
Wow.
It was such a
totally
random match.
My mind.
Yeah. But they had some other good matches during that time. They had good chemistry, but Yeah, and Kane and Undertaker, always awesome. The Brothers of Destruction, to see them together. Oh, just crushing guys. I love that hidden gem that we talked about a few months ago where Kane chokeslams Triple H with a beer in one hand, one-handed chokeslam to Triple H. Man, they had some great runs together, of course. You can't discount the Brothers of Destruction, but I think Kane and Daniel Bryan was the peak. Yeah. Well, speaking of Undertaker, obviously the greatest storyline of Kane's career is Kane and Undertaker.
Yeah.
But their matches were not always some of the best. It was really more about the story getting there than the actual match result. But and we didn't actually rank any of their matches in our personal top 20s when we did our final episode of Talking Taker. But what is your favorite match between The Undertaker and Kane? Because he had so many of them. What's the first one that comes to your mind?
Ooh, well, just based on personal bias, probably WrestleMania 20 because we were there, Just seeing the dead man come back, and Kane was already his bald self, and he was just playing the whole you're like Taker was a specter, it wasn't real, and just I know it wasn't like a 5-star class, like I said, but just we were there, dude. We got to see the Return of the Dead Man. I think that one just I'm probably biased because we were there. So
yeah, I agree with you. I'll say their first match at WrestleMania 14, just because it establishes Kane. It makes him. It really is a good big man match between those guys. Again, it didn't make our top 20, but it made the fans' top 20. Got a lot of votes and a lot of great memories for people for that one. That's probably my number one.
And if we weren't there, I'd probably have said that one. Take myself out of being there, I'd probably say that one just because, it was the first time they touched, in a ring. So, and
that was such a great storyline that at WrestleMania 20 to bring Taker back, all the build up without Taker ever showing up. Oh man, so good. Well, we mentioned a lot of them, Travis, as we did this podcast. So many bizarre, bonkers, off the wall, so bad they're good moments and storylines that Kane had throughout his career. What do you think is your favorite just wrestle crap, so bad it's good, I can't believe this happened on my TV moment of Kane's career?
Ooh, I can't believe this happened on my... has it got to be... See, first I was like, well, him and Jericho feuding over spilled coffee is pretty lame.
We didn't talk about that.
They have a last man standing match, which is fantastic. It's great. It's a great match. But as far as just insane, I can't believe that happened. Probably him burning good old JR.
Dude.
That's got to be it, right? I mean...
yeah. It's clearly a stunt man. Yeah. JR's off camera, just screaming.
It reminds me of Nicolas Cage and Wicker Man. The bees are in my eyes. It's like very just stupid. Yeah. It's obviously JR bad. Off camera going,
it's real bad.
Yeah.
Slobber
knocker.
I'll nominate within the same timeline the Shane McMahon stuff.
Sure.
The battery on the testicles. The where he gets him in the limo and ties the belt to the literally kills Shane McMahon, and he's on
that
TV
made it
the next
the opening
week.
of Raw for years.
Yeah. That was a great special effect.
He throws him in a dumpster and lights him in. Does he light him on a dumpster fire? He throws him off a ledge into a dumpster. I can't remember if he lights him on fire or not, but
absolutely.
Yeah, it was a dumpster fire. Yeah, that was the second one I had to say if I wasn't going with JR, but yeah, him and Shane.
Pushing Zack Ryder off the stage in a wheelchair with a broken neck. So much good stuff. The wedding with Lita and Matt Hardy, and oh man, we could go on and on.
Yeah, with so many dumb things.
All right, so to wrap it all up, we're not going to do a top 10 or top 20. We're not necessarily talking about the best Kane matches because we haven't gone through every Kane match. We can't give that objectively. But man, when it comes to just off the top of your head, most memorable, favorite, what are the matches that you think about Kane that are just stuck in your memory throughout your years of being a wrestling fan and being a Kane fan? Like, what are some of these matches? You told me you wrote down 5 just off the top of your head that you're like, when I think of Kane, I think of these matches.
I think of these matches, and again, it's not necessarily iconic moments or anything. It's just like there's 3 of them that came to me like that, and we've mentioned one of them already. The other 2 on my list, I have Kane and Albert, the IC title. That match comes to my mind. Like, that was SmackDown June 28th, 01, and that's one of my I'm going to put a Kane match on. I wouldn't mind watching that one again. Another one was that Raw Roulette TLC match. That match is great. That was October 7th, 02. So those 2 matches were the ones I added later. But the first 3 that came to my mind were in no particular. Well, I'll just go from I guess 3 down to 1. Kane versus Angle WrestleMania X8. Yes. I remember kind of being like, Angle's getting put in the Kane match. Like, that's not what I wanted for my Kurt Angle at that point, because he's coming off of 2001, which was phenomenal.
With Benoit, yeah.
We watch out at your house, and that match over-delivered, dude. Kane going to come off the top rope, and Angle jumps up there and throws him. That match over-delivered, dude. It did not need to be that good, but it did because of both guys that are in that.
Absolutely. That's that when you told me to do this, that was when I wrote down. It's a hidden gem on WrestleMania,
it is.
And of course, you have Rock and Hogan on that same night, so it gets overlooked and overshadowed. But man, you're right. They over delivered.
Yeah.
That match had no business being as good as it was, and it had no storyline going into it whatsoever. No. But yet they go out and they crush it, man.
Yep. That was like 2 years in a row the Angles match was just made like at the end of the season. You're like, oh crap, we forgot Angles on the show. It's like, yeah. But they go out and crush it. And we talked about WrestleMania 17, Big Show, Kane and Raven. I rewatched that match yesterday. It's so good, man.
It's so good.
Raven's one and only WrestleMania match. So I love that as a special place in my heart for Raven. Again, my one of top 2 favorite hardcore matches in WWE history is that one. They get on the golf carts in the back, dude. It's
great.
Kane's driving a golf cart with a referee on the back, and Raven drives off the edge, and they can't keep going. And they get thrown through the wall, through the glass. It's all great, man.
They nearly ruin WrestleMania because Raven runs over a power cord and nearly cuts the power off to the live feed of the cameras or whatever. But yeah, dude, again, overlooked because it's on WrestleMania 17. It's on the greatest pay-per-view card in WWF history, with the biggest pay-per-view card in WWF history. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it doesn't always get talked about. But, again, it only adds to that because, it's part of what makes that entire night so good. There's so much variety on that night. There's so much great wrestling. There's so much great storytelling. You got Vince and Shane doing this big dramatic soap opera thing. You got Rock and Austin, of course. You got Angle and Benoit having the technical match. But then you have this hardcore backstage brawl. And Kane does the big elbow drop into the bottom of the off the side of the stage. What a great match. And it had no right being as good as it was.
No, it didn't, man. It was so fun, so entertaining. And go back and watch it, guys, and listen to the pop Kane gets. Houston blows up for Kane when his music hits, man. It is awesome. And then my top one, or do you want to do some of yours first before I get my top one?
No, I don't want to steal yours. So I don't know what yours is going to be.
Of all time, and I rewatched it again yesterday, and this is my favorite Kane match ever. It's TLC 2012. Kane, Dan Bryan, Ryback versus The Shield. The Shield's first match in the company. It is just nuts. It is insane. Constant action, constant drama. And it put these 3 new guys on the map. And Kane he may do a little bit of sleeping in the match, but that was the story. The numbers game. They would take out Ryback and take out Bryan and then beat up Kane. Or they'd take out Kane and take out Bryan and beat up Ryback. That was their whole. It played into the gimmick, so it was good. But like, Kane has some cool stuff on it. He does there's a table over the top rope, and he comes up and jumps off it instead of jumping off the turnbuckle. There's a lot of cool stuff. But that match is that. If you said you got to watch one Kane match the rest of your life, I'm watching that one right there. It is phenomenal, dude. Phenomenal match.
It made the Shield. You know,
Yes.
They had that amazing debut, and they had, whatever their run-ins for the next few weeks, and they were presented as stars. And they did their Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns. They all owned their roles, no doubt about it. But that match that was their first match. All three of those guys, that was their first match on the main roster, and it made those guys. And it's weird to think about Ryback making somebody, but Ryback, Daniel Bryan, and Kane played that role in making those guys. So I wrote that down as well. It's fantastic, iconic. It also makes me think of Kane. He was also in the TLC match a few years later with the Kurt Angle Shield with Kurt Angle, Ambrose and Rollins against Kane, Corbin, Miz, right? Is it Corbin? Drew? I can't even remember. It's like 5-on-3. That one is...
I blocked that one out of my mind, dude. Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget. Kurt Angle, Proud Papa with the Shield. Smiling so big. Oh, man. Man, you mentioned all the great ones. The only other ones I thought of course... the two WrestleManias with Undertaker, I think, just for their place in history, I always think of those with Kane. That Stone Cold match on Raw for the title, the one where he won with Hell in a Cell is great, but I love the crowd and the whole storyline going into that one on Monday Night Raw, the night after King of the Ring 98. I'm surprised you didn't mention this one, because it made your top 10 of that era, but Undertaker and Big Show versus Kane and X-Pac from SummerSlam 99. What a fun little sprint of a match.
Oh, great. And again, I didn't put too much thought in. Honestly, I wrote the first three down, and I was like, what other two do I think of right now? And it was that Albert match. And but you're right. If I had sat and put a lot of thought, I probably would have put that above a couple of those other ones. But that match is one of my favorite tag matches. It's so good, man. So good.
And as we try to come up with some closing thoughts on Kane, are any of Kane's matches gonna be in the top 20 or top 30 matches in WWE history? Probably not. You're not thinking of those Kane matches alongside, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, or Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat, or of course Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Kane doesn't have that legacy, and he doesn't have that history, but he, like we've talked about throughout this episode, he is that guy that you could put in anywhere on the card, from the pre-show, from the Royal Rumble, from a Money in the Bank, to a hardcore title, to an Intercontinental title, to that main event run, and he's going to come in and he's not going to put on this technical masterpiece, but he's going to put on some sports entertainment. And he's going to grip you, and he's going to put you on the edge of your seat. He's going to keep you entertained from the opening bell to the closing bell. He's going to crush the promos. He's going to crush the ridiculous stuff. And he's just going to be one of the most entertaining, iconic characters of all time. And, he never sucked in the ring. It was never... It was maybe never the best match on the card. It was never that Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels level, but he always was able to do his thing and do some really impressive things in the ring. Does that make sense?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly, man. Absolutely agree with that. So, I don't really know a better way to put it, honestly, than that. He's just a utility player. He's like I was trying to think, like, he's not, if you think of the Beatles, you think of McCartney and Lennon, he's the George Harrison or the Ringo. Like, he's there, and he makes it part of what it is, but he's not the star. But if you take him out, it's not the same, So it's just he's phenomenal. And I have one more stat for you, if you don't mind. One more Kane number.
I just want to say I love that, because I think Kane is Ringo. You can't have the Beatles without Ringo. But Ringo could be comedy. He could be silly. Exactly. He brings your Yellow Submarine and everything. And Kane could do that. Kane Kane never took himself as seriously as the Undertaker. You know, Undertaker committed
Right.
to that gimmick, 24/7, 365. And Kane always, he would do some silly stuff. He would do comedy. He would do the stuff with Pete Rose. He would do...
Yeah, the Pete Rose, yeah.
he would do the stuff with Daniel Bryan. He took it very seriously, but was also able to be light and laugh at himself. And he was the drumbeat of the Attitude Era. He was the guy, you had to have him in there. He kept the pace. He was the guy in the Money in the Bank matches that would, be the guy that could keep the match running. He's not the guy that did the Shelton Benjamin running to the top of the ladder crazy spots, but you needed him in there to be the post for guys to jump off of, to be the guy to catch people. You had to have him there, and he filled that role to a T. So, man, I love that.
Yeah, he's Ringo, the Ringo Starr of the WWE. So there we go. Well, I have one more statistic for you that I looked up right before we started. Kane is the record holder for the most matches in WWE, like most appearances. He has 1,666 matches. So that's no accident. The Devil's Favorite Demon has 1,666. So he had 1,665 until Royal Rumble this year, and he had went up to 1,666. The next person in line behind him is Big Show. Do you want to guess how many he has? How many is Big Show behind Kane?
I'm gonna say is in the 1500s, something like that.
1444. So he's got 222 less matches.
Dang.
Which is, think if you wrestle once a week, that's 4 more years, because 52 so it's just no one's gonna. Ziggler's behind that,
but
Orton.
Big Show's done in WWE. He's in AEW.
Yeah, he's not
getting any more WWE matches.
Ziggler and Orton are behind him, but they're not.
No.
They're Orton's about 300, almost 300 behind, so he's not gonna. He if he goes another 10 years, he may be able to catch him. But so Kane has the most appearances, most matches of any performer in WWF. That is crazy, dude.
Who knows if they're ever going to have house shows again?
Right.
We may never see that era where they're wrestling 5 times a week ever again. Maybe if they do them once a week or a couple times a month or something like that. Not for a long time, at least. So he may have that record forever.
He may keep it. And just to put in perspective, because we are talking Taker, the Dead Man has 843, so almost twice as many.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Twice as many as his brother. That's crazy, dude. Crazy.
If that doesn't tell you his Hall of Fame status and his importance,
that's enough.
Again, he's the guy. He's the workhorse. He's the utility guy. He's the guy you put in anywhere, and he puts in the work and he puts in the effort. And it may not always be the best match on the card, but it's always a good match. It's always entertaining. It always keeps your attention. It's never going to crap the bed. He's always going to, he can pull a decent match out of anybody. Maybe not the best match out of anybody, but always a good match, and is always going to entertain you, no matter what he does, and make something out of it. And so, I have a ton of respect for the guy.
No doubt.
Huge fan for all time. So glad he's in the Hall of Fame, where he belongs. And man, who knows what comes next for the Devil's Favorite Demon.
That's right, man.
Who knows? His story may not be over yet.
It may not be. We don't know.
But man, this was so much fun to talk to you about, Travis. I enjoyed reconnecting with you. I hope our Creatures of the Night enjoyed it as well. We know a lot of you are huge Kane fans as well as Taker fans, so we would love for you to hit us up on social media at Talking Taker on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We haven't gone anywhere. We're still there. You can hit us up at Talking Taker. You can leave a comment on wherever you listen to the podcast, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify and Google Play. Don't forget, you can watch the video version of this podcast and our last few podcasts, including our final episode of the podcast that we got to record in person over on our YouTube page at Talking Taker over there. We encourage you to subscribe and check that out. And, we wanted this to kind of be a surprise drop of the podcast, so we don't have a lot of listener comments to throw out, or any for that matter. But I do want to shout out a few of our favorite friends of the podcast for just some special thank yous since we ended the show. I want to shout out at Collect Up Dead, which is Collecting Dead Man. He's got a podcast. He's a friend of the show. He is sort of carrying the Undertaker torch now that we have ended our show. And his show is a little bit different. It's more about all of the great, never-ending Undertaker merchandise that has been produced over the years. He is trying to build an unbeatable Undertaker collection with every Undertaker figure and merchandise item through the years. He was so kind enough to invite me on the show and have an interview with him. Got to talk with him for about 45 minutes or about an hour on the show, just about Undertaker fandom and Undertaker figures. So that is the Collecting Dead Man podcast you can go listen to if you're looking for some more Talking Taker content. Want to say special thank you to the Bottom Line podcast, and especially to Mike Prue. So he sent us some gifts. This is my Undertaker shaker bottle that Mike Prue sent me in the mail, completely unexpected. I drink out of it every day. I got my water in here.
If you guys were paying attention to our Facebook story during WrestleMania, that made an appearance as I was watching.
I sent us some Undertaker t-shirts. I had to wear my Kane t-shirt for tonight. Oh, no doubt. But the Undertaker t-shirt, Mike, you're the man.
I wore that during Mania, and my Zubaz, baby. You got me. So I was all takered out.
Yeah, man. Such great friends, Mike and JV.
Yeah, man.
We, in case you missed it, we were a guest on their show. As we did a watch-along for Undertaker and Stone Cold.
Yeah. SummerSlam 98, right?
SummerSlam 98 for 316 Day. Very fun episode. We got to be on there. We always enjoy being with them. So, again, if you're looking for more Talking Taker content, go hit those guys up. We got a few watch-alongs with them. You can scroll through their feed. Of course, they go through the Stone Cold era, the Stone Cold career. I want to shout out Watch-Along Tommy, who's doing some WrestleMania specials on his YouTube channel. He talked about WrestleMania 27, which, of course, we were there for over on his channel. He's got some great content over there. Go subscribe to Watch Along Tommy. And then I want to shout out Randy Turco, our boy, Pokey's little dog. Again, we talked about it, we kind of alluded to it. He gave us a very, very special gift towards the end of our podcast, and was so kind and so generous to us. Such a great friend of the show. We love Randy. He sent his. I haven't got it yet, but he's supposed to be sending me a special figure to add to my Undertaker collection. I was trying to pay him for it, but he's just wanted to send it to me. Travis, I think we need to send him a little something special to say thank you for him. So I got to talk with you off air about doing that. Again, Randy is the man at Pokey's little dog. We love Randy Turco. We want to send him well wishes. I want to send all of you out there well wishes. We thank you. We miss you all our listeners. We appreciate all the love and support for our final episode. You guys are so awesome to listen to it and share it and give us such great feedback and comments on it on all the social media pages. It means a lot. It means so much. So many of you have reached out saying you miss us, you want to see us back. So we hope this will hold you over until whatever comes next for Travis and I. Travis, I love talking with you off air, but this was a blast to get back with you.
Yeah. No doubt.
Talk Taker and raise Kane for a little bit tonight. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It's been fun. It's been. I hope it whets your appetite for just. And I hope you guys were surprised and just enjoy, having us back in your ear holes and talk about Kane. So again, we're not going to do this for every little thing. It was just, it was apropos since he's the Hall of Fame and it's his Taker's brother. So we had to do it. So
that's right. Stay subscribed in case anything else comes around. Undertaker comes around. He just did a video about hunting turkeys. It's on YouTube. I was about to say that. Yeah. That's what you're about to say? Okay. Yeah. That exists.
Yeah, that's there.
That's a thing that happened.
he doesn't care anymore. He's just doing everything.
I love it.
He's always
He's
welcome to come here.
He's always welcome. The offer is out there.
Yeah.
Travis,
I have a connection to Kane though. I was in went and saw Dave Matthews Band in Knoxville in 2001.
Okay.
And didn't know that Kane was going to be the future mayor there, but we got to Knoxville, Thompson Bowling Arena, when we went and ate something like a Hardee's or Wendy's or something, and then we got a limo to take us to Thompson Bowling Arena to concert, and we got in there, and he was like, it was the like crappiest limo I've ever been in my life. There's like sticky stuff everywhere and like plastic cups that had been drinking out of, and just like spilled wine and juice in there. It was gross, but we got in there and we were like, oh sweet, limo dude. He's like, yeah man, I just had Kane, Undertaker, Steve Austin in there. I guess Raw was there that Monday or something. And they're like, yeah, man, Kane and Taker are huge, man. They're sitting back there. I was like, there's no way that they were A, fitting in this crappy little car you have, and B, in this mess that you have left us. So, but anyway, I wanted to share that on this. I can't remember if I shared that on Talking Taker or not, but on our regular episodes. But anyway, I wanted to share that connection with Kane. And then, yeah, he would become the mayor of that city. So, kind of funny.
Dude. We have to reshare our now that you say that, our WrestleMania 2011 WrestleMania 27 story with Kane. We mentioned it on that episode, but so WrestleMania's in Atlanta. Of course, you, I, our buddy Josh and Chuck, we got the 4-pack. We did the whole experience. We got the hotel. We got the package, Hall of Fame access, really good WrestleMania seats. We did it all up because, WrestleMania's in Georgia, where we live. Only time it's ever happened. Only time it may ever happen at this rate.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, yeah, we got there. We're there. This was either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. One of the first days we were there, but... so we went across the street to the hotel where the wrestlers were staying at, and we were walking over to get something to eat somewhere, and we saw this big crowd of wrestling fans, and you can kind of tell a crowd of wrestling fans when you see them on the street. So we saw them out there, and we were like, "What's going on?" And they said, "Oh yeah, the wrestlers, they're leaving the hotel to go to Access or the Hall of Fame or whatever it was that they were going to." So we're like, "Oh sweet, cool." So we sort of hung out there with these, sweaty dudes, just in the streets of Atlanta. We saw, Hornswoggle and Chavo and CM Punk. We saw Jim Ross chain smoking outside the hotel coming out. We saw the mid-card bus with all the jabronis getting on the same little shuttle bus. Tyson
Dolph
Kidd, Dolph Ziggler, Hurricane, whatever. I don't know. Primo, Carlito. We saw Farouk out there, and he gave us the old damn to all of us out there. Gave us a little love. And then Kane
Captain
comes
Corolla.
out. Oh yeah, dude. We're chanting for every wrestler who comes out. We're trying to get their attention. We're trying to pop them. Ron Simmons was the best one.
Yeah.
But then Kane gets in a car, little tiny Corolla, not his little electric car that he drives around Knoxville in, but basically the same thing. He hops in it across the street with his wife. They drive up. They do a U-turn and pull around. Kane's in the passenger seat.
Across 4 lanes of traffic.
In downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
Pulls in front of us, 50 wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And he rolls down the window in his little tiny Corolla and turns out the window and says, "My wife told me I should say hi." Hi! And then rolls the window up and pulls down the street.
And we're all like, yes! There was before the yes chance, but yeah, we loved it, man. It was awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Kane.
Thank you, Mrs. Kane, for getting Kane to say that. I wish I had it on video or something like that.
Oh, I know.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So, yeah, there's our connections with Kane.
That's our connections with Kane. That's
our
it
LinkedIn
right
with Kane. Yeah, that's how we're linked in with the mayor of Knox County. So,
well,
anyway.
Yeah, you're about to do a show near Knox County, in the same state. Tell people about that. Plug your music, man, before you wrap things up here. Make sure you get a plug in for that.
on Friday, if in 5 days from now you want to come see me at in Bristol, Tennessee, at Delta Blues Barbecue, you can come see me. I'll be doing an acoustic show, so you can find anything out on my Facebook or on my YouTube, youtube.com/Travis White. Got my own YouTube page there, so yeah, check me out. And I'm doing a show there. I would love to figure out how to live stream it, but it's just, I don't know if it's going to work out. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I got about a week to figure it out. So, but yeah, come check me out. Check my music out on Spotify, Apple Music,
yeah, man,
Deezer, Tweezer, Skeezer, any of those things.
New
Amazon,
EP,
Unlimited. Yeah, new EP was full production, good music, good sounds. So check it out. Check out my acoustic stuff. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely, I enjoy it. Highly recommend it to all you listeners out there. Go support Travis. Enjoy that. You can buy it on iTunes as well, but you can stream it too. Give it a listen. Give it a spin. And support Travis after he endured so many Snitsky and Big Show, Heidenreich, Hall of Fame, Great Khali matches for everybody. Yeah. You can at least listen to his music once or twice.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. Let me plug that here. So, but other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for welcoming us back into your ears, and we hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you down the road if something happens, if something comes up, and we'll be there along for the ride. So, other than that, stay safe out there. Go raise some Kane. And as always, take her easy.